Let's just raise a couple of points which you very helpfully raised this morning. One is about the timings of the tsunami, which I'd like you to take us through if you can. And the other really is about the magnitude of the quake itself, which you've run a rule over.
This was, as we've said, one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded. Excuse me. The largest ever to strike Japan. It's hovering between the 7th or the 8th largest ever. A massive amount of energy, 8.8 on the scale, and that's been called a mega quake by the US Geological Survey. We're getting some more details about the fact of where it occurred. It occurred off the coast of Japan, 230 miles from Tokyo, in a place called the Japan Trench. And this is the deep part of the ocean, it's 30,000 feet deep. The earthquake was shallow, therefore its energy would have been directed towards the ocean floor, causing the tsunami. And it's estimated initially that part of the fault where the Pacific plate and the Eurasian tectonic plate are rubbing up against each other, and it's the slippage between these two which causes the earthquakes, that may have moved along a fault line of 500 kilometers. So this is a major shifting of two fault lines in respect to each other, the pent-up energy being released as the earthquake. This occurred, of course, under the ocean. Therefore, unlike the smaller Kobe earthquake, casualties are going to be due to the tsunami. And the tsunami, of course, spreads then a vast amount of energy. You can do a back-of-the-envelope calculation and say that in the tsunami, which is being spread across the Pacific, there is the equivalent energy of between 10,000 and, say, 50,000 atomic bombs. So this is a vast amount of energy. At the moment, it's heading towards Papua New Guinea, which it's going to strike in just under 20 minutes. Then at 1 o'clock, just after 1 o'clock, it's going to pass Hawaii, the Samoan Islands at 14:50, Australia at 3:30, New Zealand at 5:30, and Easter Island at 11 o'clock tonight. Now, there are some early indications from scientific monitoring buoys, which monitor things like climate change in the Pacific, that the tsunami, which would be faster but shallower in the mid-ocean, is of the order of 1 meter high. Now, how that translates when it gets to smaller, to shallower water, when the tsunami grows in height and slows down, it's hard to say. So there's always an element of uncertainty about these tsunamis. But certainly if it's 1 meter high in the middle of the ocean, then even though it will not break on a coastline, that will cause problems for low-lying islands it passes over.
And some of the effects that we're seeing, frankly, David, look like they've been generated by CGI programs, computer-generated images, but they're not. It's for real. That's from a distance away. And yeah, I was going to say, you can actually see some small cruisers that are being swept around there, but it's not a sinkhole. This is just the eddies of the...
I think what's happened there is that as the tsunami has come inland, the force and the direction of the current, if you like, has been channeled by walls, by harbour walls, by buildings, by boats, and that in that instant it's been channeled into a whirlpool, which is very destructive and will add to the destruction of this tsunami. But when these tsunamis strike the land, they are travelling 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. Water is incredibly heavy for its size, and therefore this is a tremendous battering, which water will contain all the debris and the detritus. And we've seen some pictures here where you've seen small things being tossed around by tsunami as it comes inland, and they've turned out to be buses. So this is incredibly damaging, and I think that when we look back on this earthquake, it will obviously be the tsunami which caused most of the casualties and not the earthquake itself.
Let me just repeat one thing which may emerge as very important. The Japanese have issued a state of emergency at a nuclear plant following a failure of the cooling system there. At this stage, they are saying there is no radiation leak. They are not saying there is no radiation leak risk. In terms of those times of when the tsunami might yet hit, however powerfully, Hawaii. What was the time for Hawaii, David Whitehouse?
Hawaii is at 7 minutes past 1.
7 minutes past 1, UK time, so a couple of hours away, almost exactly. Let's go to Robert Nisbet, who's actually in Waikiki in Hawaii to get a sense of preparations there. Robert, what's happening?
Well, earlier on, when I spoke to you, Colin, the streets were jammed with people. They're very, very quiet now. It's 7 minutes past 1, so it's 2 hours and counting from now when they're expecting the wave to hit here. Every now and again around our hotel, and just to tell you where I am, I'm a few blocks back from the beach itself. I'm in a hotel. I'm on the 8th floor, and I'm looking out over the balcony and have been watching the reaction and preparations over the last few hours. Every now and again, police with loud hailers come out and tell tourists to get back into their hotels and listen for further instruction. As you can imagine, all the local TV stations are covering this wall to wall and giving out information that tsunami refuge centers have now been opened, that ships in Pearl Harbor, which of course is the headquarters of the US Pacific Fleet a few miles away from where I am now, are going to remain in port. Some airports have been closed. Sirens will be repeated every hour, and they're telling people to remain calm and follow instructions.
Robert, thanks very much indeed. Debbie Whitehouse, surprised that the ships are staying in harbour at Pearl Harbor? I thought it was better to go out to the sea and ride out the tsunami.
I think the estimate that this could be a few feet in height is probably within the ability of these very large warships to cope with, particularly if they have a secure mooring and they have space around them and there's no risk of any collision. It's probably, given the fact that this is only 2 hours away, it's probably logistically very difficult to get them anywhere, considering there are several of them, and sitting it out and staying put is probably the best option.
Okay. Just want to recap where we are with the tsunami, because there are different approaches been adopted in different countries presently. We know that the tsunami did or the remnants of the tsunami have hit Taiwan to no serious ill effect. We are worried about the very small and, it's fair to say, underreported Pacific Islands where, unlike the pictures we were just looking at, there will be no helicopters or cameras. And in particular, as we look at this map, David, it's the Micronesian Islands in particular, north of and to the side of to the east of Papua New Guinea, possibly out up towards Hawaii, where Robert Nisbet was just talking about, and west of Hawaii, places like Midway and Guam.
That's right. This swell is of order of 1 metre, perhaps 2 metres. It's difficult to tell. It's moving in mid-ocean much faster than it does when it reaches shore, the speed of a jumbo jet, so it's travelling very quickly. And a lot of these small communities are low-lying. They in islands, which have mountainous regions, the settlements are always on the coast. And they, of course, have no warning of this. And although they will be used to what nature can throw at them in terms of hurricanes and in terms of tsunamis, this one they will have no warning of. So there may well be, in days to come, weeks to come, some very terrible tales of small communities which were affected by this tsunami as it came out of the blue. Because if you see this thing on the horizon coming towards you, in fact, you don't see it on the horizon, you see it much closer than that, it is then too late to run out of the way.
President Obama has offered his condolences